Imagine, if you will, a world where our actions speak louder than our words, where our deeds outshine our declarations, and where the essence of our character is revealed not through boastful pronouncements, but through the quiet, persistent pursuit of excellence. This, dear friends, is the world I invite you to create with me today. The title of our discourse, Never Tell People What You Do, may at first glance seem counterintuitive. After all, we live in an age where self-promotion is often seen as the key to success, where one's worth is measured by the volume of one's voice rather than the virtue of one's action. But I implore you to consider a different path, a path that leads to true fulfillment and lasting impact. Let us begin by examining the folly of excessive self-disclosure. When we constantly tell others about our endeavors, our achievements, and our aspirations, we run the risk of diluting the very essence of our actions. It's as if we're pouring water into a fine wine, weakening its potency and diminishing its flavor. Our words, however well-intentioned, can never fully capture the depth and richness of our experiences. They are but pale shadows cast by the vibrant reality of our deeds. Consider for a moment the great oak tree. Does it announce its growth to the forest? Does it boast of its strength to the winds? No, it simply grows day by day, year by year, spreading its roots deep into the earth and its branches high into the sky. Its majesty is self-evident, requiring no verbal embellishment. We would do well to emulate the oak, focusing our energies on growth and development rather than proclamation and posturing. Now, some may argue that in our modern world, visibility is crucial. They may say that without self-promotion, one's talents and abilities may go unnoticed. But I submit to you that true excellence has a luminosity that cannot be hidden. It's like a city on a hill. It shines forth, drawing others to its light. When we pour ourselves wholly into our work, when we commit ourselves fully to our passions, the quality of our output becomes a beacon that attracts attention far more effectively than any self-aggrandizing speech ever could. Let us consider the great artists and thinkers of history. Did Michelangelo need to explain the beauty of the Sistine Chapel? Did Shakespeare have to elucidate the profundity of his sonnets? No, their works spoke for themselves, resonating across centuries, touching hearts and minds long after their creators had departed this mortal coil. Their legacy was built not on words about their work, but on the work itself. But perhaps you're thinking, surely there must be times when we need to speak about our accomplishments. What about job interviews or networking events? And you would be right to raise these points. Indeed, there are occasions when we must articulate our abilities and experience. But even in these instances, I urge you to let your passion and your actions take center stage. Instead of reciting a litany of achievements, speak of the problems you've solved, the challenges you've overcome, the growth you've experienced. Share not just what you've done, but why you've done it, what you've learned from it, and how it has shaped you. In doing so, you paint a picture not just of your skill, but of your character, your values, and your potential. Moreover, when we focus less on telling people what we do, we open ourselves up to truly listening to others. We create space for genuine connections, for mutual understanding and appreciation, in a world that often seems to value the loudest voice over the wisest words. This ability to listen, to observe, to understand becomes increasingly precious. Think of the most influential people in your life. Are they the ones who constantly trumpeted their own virtues, or are they the ones who quietly but consistently demonstrated their worth through their actions? I would wager that it's the latter. These individuals, through their silent example, taught us more about integrity, perseverance, and excellence than any self-promoting speech ever could. Now, let us delve deeper into the psychological implications of this approach. When we constantly tell others about our plans and achievements, we risk falling into a trap of complacency. The act of talking about our goals can sometimes give us a false sense of progress, as if merely speaking about our intentions is equivalent to acting on them. This phenomenon, known to some as the intention-behavior gap, can significantly hinder our actual progress. Instead, I propose we adopt a mindset of quiet determination. Let your intentions simmer in the crucible of your mind. Let them fuel your actions without the need for external validation. When you achieve your goals, let the achievement itself be your reward, rather than the accolades or recognition it might. This approach also shields us from the pernicious effects of external expectations. When we broadcast our intentions to the world, we inadvertently invite others to place their expectations upon us. These expectations, however well-meaning, can become a burden, distorting our motivations and adding unnecessary pressure to our endeavors. By keeping our cards closer to our chest, we maintain the freedom to explore, to make mistakes, to change course if necessary, without the weight of public scrutiny. This is not to say that we should shy away from accountability, but rather that we should be selective about whom we invite into our inner circle of confidence and advisors. Furthermore, the practice of not telling people what we do cultivates a sense of humility. In a world that often seems to reward brash self-confidence and unapologetic self-promotion, humility might seem like a quaint, outdated virtue. But I assure you, it is anything but. Humility is the fertile soil in which true greatness grows. When we are humble, we remain open to learning, to improvement, to seeing the world from perspectives other than our own. We recognize that no matter how much we've accomplished, there is always more to learn, always room for growth. This humility keeps us hungry, keeps us striving, prevents us from resting on our laurels or becoming complacent in our success. Consider the image of a cup. An empty cup can be filled, but a cup that is already full has no room for anything new. Similarly, when we are full of our own self-importance, when we are constantly proclaiming our own virtues, we leave no room for new knowledge, new experiences, new growth. But when we approach life with humility, with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing our worth without needing to declare it, we remain open, receptive, ready to be filled with new wisdom and understanding. This humility also fosters a spirit of collaboration rather than competition. When we're not focused on proving our own worth or superiority, we're free to appreciate the talents and contributions of others. We can work together, pooling our strengths, complementing each other's weaknesses, achieving far more than we ever could alone. Now let us turn our attention to the power of mystery. In a world where information is abundant and easily accessible, where people's lives are often laid bare for all to see, there is a unique allure to those who maintain an air of mystery. By not constantly telling people what you do, you create a sense of intrigue. People become curious. They want to know more. They are drawn to you not because of what you say about yourself, but because of what they perceive through your action. This mystery can be a powerful tool in both personal and professional realms. In business, it can set you apart from competitors who are all too eager to lay out their every move. In personal relationships, it can deepen connections as people are encouraged to truly know you rather than simply know about you. Arvik it's not about being secretive or deceptive, or just about letting your actions speak for themselves, about being confident enough in your own worth that you don't need to constantly affirm it through words. It's about understanding that true respect and admiration are earned through consistent, positive action, not through self-aggrandizement. Consider also the freedom that comes with this approach. When we're not constantly focused on telling others what we do, we're free to simply be. We can immerse ourselves fully in our work, our passions, our relationships, without the distraction of having to craft a narrative about these experiences for public consumption. This freedom allows us to be more present, more authentic. We're not performing for an audience. We're simply living our lives to the fullest. And ironically, it's this authenticity, this genuine engagement with life, that often draws people to us more than any carefully crafted public image ever could. Now, I anticipate that some of you may be thinking, but surely there's value in sharing our experiences, in inspiring others with our stories, and you would be absolutely right. There is immense value in sharing our journeys and using our experiences to uplift and encourage others. But I would argue that the key lies in the motivation behind the sharing. Are we sharing to genuinely help others, to contribute to a larger conversation to offer insights that might benefit our fellow travelers on this journey of life? Or are we sharing to boost our own ego, to gain admiration, to prove our worth? The former is noble and necessary. The latter is ultimately hollow and unfulfilling. When we do choose to share our experiences, let it be with thoughtfulness and purpose. Let our words be carefully chosen. Our stories selected not for their ability to impress, but for their potential to inspire, to educate, to comfort. In this way, our sharing becomes not an act of self-promotion, but one of service. Let us also consider the impact of this approach on our personal growth. When we're not constantly telling others what we do, we create space for self-reflection. We can assess our actions, our motivations, our progress without the distorting lens of public opinion. This introspection is crucial for genuine growth and development. It allows us to be honest with ourselves about our strengths and weaknesses, our successes and failures. We can celebrate our achievements privately, learning to find satisfaction in the work itself rather than in the recognition it might. And we can acknowledge our shortcomings without fear of public judgment, seeing them not as sources of shame, but as opportunities for improvement. This internal focus also helps us to develop a strong sense of self that is not dependent on external validation. We learn to trust our own judgment, to have confidence in our abilities, to find motivation from within rather than seeking it from without. This inner strength becomes a wellspring of resilience, helping us to weather the inevitable storms of life with grace and determination. Now, let us address a potential misunderstanding. The philosophy of never tell people what you do does not mean that we should be secretive or withhold information that could be beneficial to others. It does not advocate for a life of isolation or a refusal to engage with the world around us. Rather, it encourages us to let our actions speak louder than our words, to show rather than tell, to lead by example rather than by exhortation. Think of it as a shift in focus from talking about doing to simply doing. Instead of spending energy crafting the perfect narrative about our life, we channel that energy into living a life worth talking about. We become so engrossed in our pursuits, so dedicated to our craft, so committed to our values that our actions naturally radiate our worth without the need for verbal affirmation. This approach also cultivates patience and long-term thinking. In a world that often demands instant gratification that equates visibility with value, choosing to let your work speak for itself requires faith and perseverance. It means trusting in the quality of your efforts, believing that true excellence will eventually be recognized and rewarded. It's akin to planting a tree. The act itself is quite unassuming. For a long time there may be little visible evidence of your labor, but with consistent care and attention that small sapling will grow into a mighty oak, providing shade, beauty, and strength for generations to come. Your legacy is built not through grand proclamations, but through steady. Moreover, this philosophy encourages us to focus on the process rather than the outcome. When we're not constantly focused on telling others about our achievements, we're free to immerse ourselves in the joy of the work itself. We can find satisfaction in the daily practice of our craft, in the gradual honing of our skills, in the small victories and lessons learned along the way. This focus on process over outcome also helps us to develop resilience. When our sense of worth is tied to external recognition or achievement, we become vulnerable to disappointment and disillusionment. But when we find joy in the work itself, when we're driven by internal motivations rather than external rewards, we develop a steadiness that can weather both success and failure with equanimity. Let us also consider how this approach can improve our relationships. When we're not constantly talking about ourselves, we create space for deeper, more meaningful connections with others. We become better listeners, more attuned to the needs and experiences of those around us. We develop genuine curiosity about others, engaging in conversations that go beyond surface-level exchanges of personal accomplishments. This shift can transform our professional relationships as well. In a work environment where everyone is focused on showcasing their own achievements, collaboration can suffer. But when we step back from self-promotion, We open the door to true teamwork. We become more aware of how our work fits into the larger picture, more appreciative of the contributions of our colleagues, more focused on collective success rather than individual accolades. Now, I want to address a concern that may be arising in some of your minds. You might be thinking, but if I don't tell people what I do, how will I advance in my career? How will I make connections or find opportunities? These are valid concerns, and they bring us to an important point. The art of letting your work speak for itself does not mean being invisible or refusing to communicate about your abilities when appropriate. Instead, it means shifting the focus of that communication. Rather than simply listing your accomplishments or job titles, speak about the problems you've solved, the challenges you've overcome. Share your passion for your work, your vision for your field, your commitment to growth and excellence. In doing so, you paint a much more compelling picture of who you are and what you bring to the table than any resume or elevator pitch ever could. Furthermore, by consistently producing high-quality work and treating others with respect and kindness, you create a reputation that precedes you. People will speak about your abilities, your work ethic, your character, without you needing to do so yourself. This organic word-of-mouth recognition is far more powerful and enduring than any self-promotion. Let us also consider the freedom that comes with this approach. When we're not constantly focused on managing our image or crafting our personal brand, we're free to take risks, to experiment, to fail, and learn without fear of public scrutiny. We can pursue our passions and interests, even if they don't fit neatly into our professional narrative. We can evolve and grow without worrying about contradicting our previous public statements or disappointing those who have certain expectations of us. This freedom allows for a life of authenticity and integrity. We're not trying to be who we think others want us to be or who we think we should be. We're simply being who we are, doing what we love, striving always to be better today than we were yesterday. And ironically, it's this authenticity that often draws people to us and opens doors of opportunity. Now, let us zoom out and consider the broader implications of this philosophy. Imagine a world where people were more focused on doing good work than on being seen doing good work. Imagine a society where substance was valued over style, where action spoke louder than words, where character was prized above celebrity. In such a world, I believe we would see a renaissance of creativity and innovation. Freed from the pressure to constantly promote themselves, people would have more time and energy to devote to their craft, to push boundaries, to take risks. We would see more thoughtful, nuanced public discourse, as people would be more inclined to listen and reflect before speaking. We might also see a shift in our collective values. Instead of admiring those who shout the loudest about their accomplishments, we would come to appreciate those who quietly but consistently make positive contributions to their fields and communities. The role models we hold up for our children would be those of substance and integrity, not just those with the most followers or the loudest voices. This shift could have profound effects on our mental health and well-being. The constant pressure to promote oneself, to craft a perfect public image, to always appear successful and happy, takes a toll on our psychological well-being. By stepping back from this rat race of self-promotion, we create space for genuine self-acceptance and self-love. We learn to find validation from within, to measure our worth not by the applause of the crowd, but by the knowledge that we have done our best, that we have remained true to our values, that we have made a positive difference, however small, in the world around us. Moreover, this approach fosters a spirit of lifelong learning and growth. When we're not focused on proving our worth or defending our reputation, we're more open to feedback, more willing to acknowledge our mistakes, more eager to learn from those around us. We become eternal students, always curious, always striving to improve, always open to new ideas and perspectives. This mindset of continuous growth and learning is crucial in our rapidly changing world. The skills and knowledge that are valuable today may be obsolete tomorrow, but a person who is adaptable, who is always learning, who is more interested in growing than in proving their expertise, will always find a way to thrive. As we near the end of our discourse, I want to emphasize that the philosophy of never tell people what you do is not about false modesty or self-effacement. It's not about diminishing your light or hiding your talents. Rather, it's about letting your light shine through your actions, your character, your impact on the lives of others. It's about cultivating a quiet confidence that comes from knowing your worth, rather than needing to constantly declare it. Think of it as a shift from external validation to internal fulfillment. When we're not constantly seeking approval or recognition from others, we're free to focus on what truly matters to us. We can pursue excellence for its own sake, find joy in the process of creation and growth, and measure our success by our own standards rather than by the opinions of others. This approach also allows us to be more present in our daily lives. When we're not always thinking about how to present ourselves or what to say about our accomplishments, we can fully engage with the task at hand, with the people around us, with the beauty and challenges of each moment. This presence, this full engagement with life, is where true fulfillment and happiness are. Consider the analogy of a garden. A gardener doesn't need to tell people about the beauty of their flowers or the bounty of their harvest. The garden speaks for itself. The vibrant colors, the sweet fragrances, the lush growth, these are all testaments to the gardener's skill and dedication. Similarly, when we focus on cultivating our skills, nurturing our relationships, and contributing positively to our communities, the results of our efforts will be evident to all who care to look. This doesn't mean that we should never speak about our work or our passions. There are times when sharing our experiences can be valuable and inspiring to others. But when we do share, let it be with intention and humility. Let it be to educate, to inspire, to connect, rather than to impress or to elevate ourselves above others. In practice, this philosophy might manifest in various ways. In professional settings, it might mean focusing on solving problems and adding value rather than on claiming credit or jockeying for position. In creative pursuits, it might mean dedicating ourselves to our craft, constantly striving to improve rather than seeking fame or acclaim. In our personal lives, it might mean being a reliable friend, a supportive family member, a positive presence in our community, without needing to broadcast our good deeds. This approach can be particularly powerful in leadership roles. A leader who embodies this philosophy leads by example, inspiring others through their actions rather than their words. They create an environment where team members feel valued for their contributions, not for their ability to self-promote. This can lead to more collaborative, innovative, and productive workplaces. However, it's important to acknowledge that adopting this philosophy isn't always easy. We live in a world that often seems to reward self-promotion and external validation. Choosing to let your work speak for itself requires confidence, patience, and a strong sense of self. It may mean watching others who are more vocal about their accomplishments receive recognition or opportunities that you feel you deserve. But I would argue that the benefits far outweigh these challenges. By focusing on doing rather than telling, on being rather than seeming, we cultivate a deep, unshakable sense of self-worth. We develop resilience that can weather both success and failure. We free ourselves from the exhausting cycle of constantly seeking approval and validation from others. Moreover, this approach allows us to build more genuine, meaningful relationships. When we're not constantly focused on promoting ourselves, we can be more attentive to others. We can listen more deeply, empathize more fully, connect more authentically. This, in turn, can lead to stronger networks, more fulfilling friendships, and richer personal and professional lives. It's also worth considering how this philosophy aligns with the concept of legacy. When we focus on telling people what we do, we're often thinking in the short term, about the immediate impression we're making or the immediate benefits we might have. But when we focus on doing, on consistently producing quality work and positively impacting those around us, we're building something much more enduring. Think of the great figures in history who have left lasting legacies. They are remembered not for what they said about themselves, but for what they did, for the impact they had on the world. By adopting this philosophy, We orient ourselves towards creating a legacy that will speak for us long after we're gone. This approach also fosters a spirit of continuous improvement. When we're not focused on maintaining a certain image or living up to our own hype, we're free to acknowledge our weaknesses, to learn from our mistakes, to constantly strive to be better. We can embrace a growth mindset, seeing every challenge as an opportunity to learn and improve. In conclusion, the philosophy of never tell people what you do is about much more than just refraining from talking about our accomplishments. It's a holistic approach to life that prioritizes substance over style, action over words. It's about living with integrity, pursuing excellence for its own sake, and making a positive impact on the world around us. By embracing this philosophy, we free ourselves from the need for constant external validation. We cultivate a quiet confidence that comes from knowing our worth, rather than needing to prove it to others. We create space for deeper relationships, more meaningful work, and more authentic self-expression. This doesn't mean that we should never speak about our work or our achievements. There are times when sharing our experiences can be valuable and inspiring to others. But when we do share, let it be with intention and humility. Let it be to educate, to inspire, to connect, rather than to impress or to elevate ourselves above others. As we move forward, I encourage each of you to consider how you might incorporate this philosophy into your own lives. It might mean resisting the urge to post about every accomplishment on social media. It might mean focusing more on listening and learning in conversations, rather than talking about yourself. It might mean dedicating more time and energy to honing your craft, rather than promoting it. Remember, this is not about diminishing your light or hiding your talent. It's about letting your light shine through your actions, your character, your impact on the lives of others. It's about being so focused on doing good work and living with integrity that your worth becomes self-evident. In a world that often seems to value noise over substance, choosing this path may not always be easy. But I believe that it leads to a life of greater fulfillment, deeper relationships, and more meaningful impact. It allows us to focus on what truly matters, not how we appear to others, but who we are and what we contribute to the world. So let us go forth with quieter determination, letting our actions speak louder than our words. Let us focus on being rather than seeming, on doing rather than telling. Let us strive to live lives of such substance and integrity that our worth is evident without need for declaration. In doing so, we not only enrich our own lives, but we also contribute to creating a world that values substance over spectacle, character over charisma, and genuine impact over self-promotion. The path ahead may not always be easy, but I assure you it is worthwhile. For in choosing this path, we choose a life of authenticity, of continuous growth, of meaningful contribution. We choose to measure our worth not by the applause of the crowd, but by the positive impact we make in the lives of others and in the world around us. So, my friends, let us embrace this philosophy not as a constraint, but as a liberation. Let us free ourselves from the exhausting cycle of self-promotion and instead channel that energy into becoming the best versions of ourselves. Let us focus on doing good work, on being good people and making a positive difference in whatever sphere we find ourselves in. And as we do so, we may find that we no longer need to tell people what we do. Our actions, our character, our impact, these will speak for us louder and more eloquently than words ever could. This, I believe, is the path to a life of true fulfillment, lasting impact, and genuine success.